He's like, I want you to take this drive. It's like Rogue One.
Yeah, it's the resistance.
He's like giving the drive.
Oh, Kitchen, this is episode 72. Just run with it. The sirens are on our end.
The sirens are on our end. The sirens are on our end. The resistance. The resistance.
Water tastes different here. Are you recording that? I think your water tastes different here.
What way does it taste different?
I don't know. There's nothing wrong with your water, but I think
you do have to let the tap run quite a while, because I will hold it and it will be tepid for a good 20 seconds.
I mean, I did boil this, but I feel like the tea.
I think because we're on the 3rd floor, I'm basically waiting for all the water that's been sitting in the pipe to essentially go, and then I want the fresh water from the other pipe. Yeah.
It's an okay tea, but I think that's what I've learned.
You've always had a problem with the tea.
Here, have I?
Yeah, you've always had a problem with it.
But I feel like, but the thing, it's not a problem. I think it's more of an observation. I think it's not your fault. It's maybe it's the water. You know what it is? I've learned recently about tea is that, because I really do think about it. Really, if you're going to drink something,
it occupies so little of my mind. I like a green tea. I very rarely drink a breakfast tea. I'll have a rooibos if I'm away. If
you're going to have a breakfast tea, you're going to drink something 3-4 times a day.
Are you 3-4 times a day with tea?
I'm at the moment probably max 3.
Right, okay.
2 in the morning, maybe 1 in the
Coffee
afternoon.
matters to me way more.
Right, okay. But you would appreciate this as a connoisseur of coffee, right?
Yeah. Well, a connoisseur, just I appreciate it.
Well, exactly. But for tea, for me, it holds equal value. I would value coffee in the same way, but coffee is such a strong effect on me that I really can't drink a lot of it.
You guys have seen what George is like.
With
people
tea,
are assuming you're like dripping espresso into your eye right before we record, but you're not.
With tea, I've noticed that this is going to sound massively like snobby thing, but I have noticed that if you drink it out of a china mug, it tastes so much better.
Oh, really?
I think it's got something to do with the way physics, with the heat, the absorption of heat.
Yes, yeah.
The ceramic absorbs a lot of your heat.
Yes.
And I've noticed, it's just one of those stupid things where I tried it. I had some tea. My flatmate had some china mugs. I didn't. I made a tea out of his mugs, and they tasted fantastic. And my mugs were fine. But every time I drank it out of his, I'd be like, why is this tasting so much better?
I think that's true for so many things. Like people talk about
the way it conducts heat. That's what I meant to say. The way it conducts heat.
And like the way certain drinks taste better out of a glass bottle. Or I really like the way...
Because the way that conducts temperature.
Right. I really like the way that peach iced tea tastes out of a metal can.
Yes.
The metallic sharpness to it adds an extra... And like cans are cold to hold, which is a whole nother experience when you're drinking something. When you pick it up and the condensation like collects around your fingers, it's part of it.
I rarely... When you make it in a china mug, the tea, you can see the steam billowing out the top very elegantly. But when you make it in a ceramic, it's kind of been absorbed. And I try and heat the mug beforehand. Okay, I'm going to tell you I'm going to just...
Go on. How does George make a cup of tea?
We've just stumbled in on me
Everyone
talking
take notes, pen and paper.
Because I like tea. Also, I say this kind of semi-jokingly, like if someone makes me a cup of tea, I'll still drink it. But
ladies and gentlemen, George Pandek.
The masterclass.
The perfect cup of tea.
I'm going to teach you how to do it. Okay. So, and I'm just talking now, because we're talking about everyday tea.
Good afternoon. My name is George Pandek. Sorry.
I'm going to be doing just a tea bag in some water, right?
A breakfast tea.
Because that's how you normally have it, right? Of course, if you want to do loose leaf tea in a pot, fantastic. Whatever. Yeah. We're just talking about tea bag in a mug. First of all, you boil that water. You fucking boil it. And before it boils, as it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer, you take a little bit of that water, you put it in the mug, you put the kettle back on the boil, and you swirl that water around the mug, and you warm that mug up. You get that mug nice and warm. You pour that water away.
You don't want your tea water cooling to warm the mug.
The kettle's boiling, and the mug is now warm, which is great. So you pour the water away. The water in the kettle boils. You pour that onto the tea bag. Click, no delay.
Yeah.
Pour it in.
Boiling.
Get it in there. Leave a little bit of room at the top, and you do the 3 S's. Number 1, you let it sit. You let that tea sit. You let that sit there with the tea bag. You let it sit and brew. Number 2, after however long you need it to be, depending on your strength.
What's your brew time?
I would say you want to balance strength and temperature because temperature is key. So you want it to be piping hot, but you don't want it to be too tepid. So I would give it probably 2-minute brew. In that time, I will also give it a stir, the second S, okay? Put the teaspoon, give it a little stir, that's fine. When you're satisfied that it has a good hearty colour, that is when you put your milk in. Some people put the milk in, then take the bag out. So I personally do the 3rd S, which is squeeze the tea bag, then remove that, then put the tea in sparingly, little by little. Nothing's worse than when you've made a good cup of tea, then you pour, and the milk just falls in, I'm over milked.
Yeah.
That's it, and then you should have a nice, hot
lot of tea
I had to think about this, sorry, because at work, I make my tea all the way downstairs, and I sit on a different floor upstairs. So if I'm not careful, by the time I go and sit down after I've chit-chatted with people and all that stuff, sit down at my desk, tepid tea.
You should get one of those hot mugs that keeps warm.
Yes, and I've also come round on microwaving tea, not to make tea, but actually microwaving tea to keep it, to revive it, or to just make it sure it's optimum temperature is fine, because all you're essentially doing is just moving the particles around.
I think my process is very similar. I like a 3-minute brew, close to 4 if I can justify it.
Yeah.
You know, timing and things. But again, I don't drink tea every day, if at all in a week. A lot of people say you shouldn't squeeze the tea bag.
Why is that? Is it because it releases?
I think you're releasing things. They're like straining things through a thing that aren't necessarily meant to have come out. You're flying too close to the sun.
I disagree.
I've spoken to people whose client was Yorkshire tea, and they do not advise that you squeeze the tea bag. It's like a marketing person.
Is it like stresses the tea?
Yeah, it's like I don't know, something to do with like you're squeezing something out when it should like ooze.
But you know what? I don't think you should squeeze it straight away. But I think maybe after it's brewed, just to get that little bit of love. But you know, there's nothing worse than I've seen people making me tea, which is like water in, bag in,
milk first,
milk in straight away, bag out, and you'll basically the water. It's not even tea. It's hot water flavored with a little bit of tea herb and milk.
I did a shoot recently with an etiquette expert.
It looks like a sink after you finish washing your face.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
The tea never brews properly when you've left it in milk. I can't even. I did a shoot with a royal etiquette expert. And he did a lot of myth busting and sort of set the ground rules for how it's meant to be done. And I was very sort of affirmed.
Could you tell me that?
Well, it's jammed scones. It's fat then sweet.
Yes,
so you do your
the
cream,
Devon way. Yeah, it makes sense. The same way you would butter first.
No, neither ways are wrong. No. Apparently, Her Royal Majesty the Queen would quite enjoy the discussion of which to go first, but really, like, no nonsense. It's fat, and then and then
great.
Tea was it's water, no milk first.
No, God no. Because you scorch the milk. That's the risk you run by doing it that way. And also you can't quantify it that way. Optimum tea making scenario, of course, would be China pot with China mugs. Not the small dainty China mugs. Those are too small. I'd like
nice
proper
breakfast.
mugs.
Yeah.
But I went to sorry, we've really gone niche here. I love it. But one of my favourite experiences I ever had, popped into a tea room in Devon. Didn't book it. Was on the way somewhere. Popped in, and it was like the first cafe we found. And I'm talking... It had the doily on the table, that kind of thing. Yeah. And they came out and they gave us the tea, and they gave a huge china pot of tea and a huge china pot of hot water.
With a beautiful, like, bent snout, like a swan's neck.
Absolutely. And inside, of course, was loose leaf tea. Yeah. And so they give you the hot water to top it up if you want. And they were like, I'm so sorry, I'm afraid all the fruit scones were run out today, but we are about to bake some normal plain scones, if those be acceptable for you. And I was like, honestly, it was a great moment of my life. And I'm not saying that, I'm not a snob or whatever. I know it sounds like, talking about tea and stuff sounds like hoity-toity, but I always, like I said, if you're going to drink something this much, for something that is also beautifully simple, that's what I do like about tea, it's just, plant, water.
There's nothing wrong with being particular, but then
discern it.
Just make it yourself. Like, know how you like to make it. Like, I really like to make my own coffee at home.
Yes.
It's not because like I don't trust my girlfriend to make me a coffee. I'm the one that usually wakes up and makes us coffee, just because like I need to see how I measure it in my milk to coffee ratio. Yeah. You know what making a coffee is? Making a coffee is like, it's like making something for the first thing you do with your day. Like, I know you can get really into it. It's like, I've actually created something that I'm going to consume that looks beautiful, smells beautiful. Yeah. When you have, I don't have a machine like this because I don't have the space for it, but I would love to get a machine with all the bells and whistles where you get your own beans, they're ground right then and there, you get the little circular thing, and it's like I've built something and created it all my way. And now I get to drink it, and it like lifts you up. It has this like incredible neurological effect on you. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I sometimes go to sleep excited for my coffee in the morning, which is...
me too. I love my tea in the morning.
Yeah, I literally go to bed like, oh my God, I get to have a coffee.
Yeah.
Wow, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. And what I don't... And people at work, obviously people can and do and have made me tea, which is fine. But I always say to people, like, it's not just... I want a beverage. I would like to use a 5-minute window to get up from my desk, to walk downstairs, to select. It's the ritual. We need rituals. We're humans.
You and I are getting an early morning train on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I am excited to buy a coffee and have my coffee on the train, and I'll be heading somewhere. It doesn't matter because I'll have my like cozy coffee and I'll drink it.
Yeah, that is very interesting because.
And it's likely
tea consumption isn't the same thing because getting a tea from a train station
very different,
better than it used to be.
Yeah,
but it's not
still
quite as glamorous.
The paper cup does not conduct the
completely
different experience. Yeah, and that will be, the quality of the coffee is different. I'll probably go for like a Starbucks iced coffee, which to me is just a different brand of coffee.
Yeah.
It's still coffee, but it's like, it's not the same when someone like makes me a beautiful flat white.
Yeah.
But I'll just have it,
Yeah.
and it will be there, and I'll be on my way, and my brain will be waking up with me as the world passes by.
You'll want to take a picture of it with the
Yeah,
background
me.
in it, like Instagram
Big
2014.
fun day, literally.
Well, sorry. Hi, guys. Hey, everyone.
That was
Welcome
like
for
maybe 8
joining
minutes
us
of just us
of
being
tea
lost.
discussion.
We are so sorry.
We are in episode 76. James and I are
76.
It is 76, and we're just chatting away. We've got a couple of things to talk about today.
We do.
We've been watching. I think we'll just get into that and crack on, shall we?
Before you do, did you
Okay.
see that there's a potential Dodgeball 2
Yes.
coming out?
Yes, I did see that. Vince Vaughn returning, but Ben Stiller, question mark?
Apparently not 100% on the Ben Stiller,
He'll probably-
which you can't do it without.
Wasn't it his film? Did he direct it? Or
Did he direct
Or did he
it?
write
He
it?
might have been. It might have been like a
I
devised.
I
by-
see that as a Ben Stiller film,
Yeah.
not a Vince Vaughn film.
No,
But it is Vince Vaughn was
very
the main
much.
character.
Yes, but Ben Stiller is. I've never seen him do anything quite like that ever again. What a film! And it's one of those sort of noughties comedy, beloved cult classic comedy films that should probably have had like its belated sequel, like a Zoolander, like an Anchorman.
Yeah,
and it hasn't.
and now it's getting it.
And I'm
Very belated.
Do you know what? My first instinct was, "Fuck yeah, let's do it." We'd love more Dodgeball, but the more I think about it, I don't know if you can capture that spirit again,
It's
or if
so
it would
early
work.
noughties.
And I wouldn't want it to be rushed, and it was so funny for its time. It was so layered.
I quite enjoy Vince Vaughn's later, less comedic roles.
Yeah,
You know,
His
the True
Hacksaw Ridge.
Detective and
Yeah.
well, I mean, his
No, I know what
characters.
you mean. He's done.
I haven't seen Brawl in Cell '99, but
He did a very.
He
he
was in
did a
that.
lot of this. He did similar comedic roles in the noughties,
yeah.
and then yeah.
I
I still
seeing
like
other
Vince
stuff.
Vaughn as an actor.
one, yeah. That's not how he
He's
talks.
great
but
in no, it's not.
He's
at all.
great in Curb.
He's great in Curb. He's great in Wedding Crashers. He's really funny.
Oh, yeah, that's the other one, isn't it? Crikey, they're gonna
God,
make
they never did a Wedding Crashers too. Which
not
does-
yet, not yet,
probably
James.
will.
Everything has its
It all
time.
will come.
The cash cow's coming in.
Dodgeball's another sleepover special. You could put that on. Everyone's having a good
Endlessly
time.
quotable.
Yeah.
No one makes
There's a
me
guy
bleed
on
my
our
blood.
team dressed like a pirate.
So let's review Polite Society, which is this film that kind of came out of nowhere and really caught my attention for getting a bit of. I've been pushed it a lot on social media, but it's kind of got no recognizable talent that I could see apart from one or two actors from TV stuff in it.
Okay.
So which I always find really intriguing. I know some people might go, "Well, I'm not going to see this. It hasn't got anyone in," but I'm like, "Oh, this looks like it's getting pushed to me a lot." But I'm intrigued because I'm unfamiliar with this territory. Anyway, Polite Society was it got its premiere in Sundance at the beginning of the year, and now it's getting released more widely. I think it's already come out in the States, and it's just been released in the UK. How to describe Polite Society? It is a feminist action martial arts coming of age comedy.
Right. Okay.
About a British Pakistani.
Any more genres you want to throw in there?
About a British Pakistani teenager who is suspicious of her sister, who's an artist, new relationship with a wealthy young man.
Okay.
And so it's set in Shepherd's Bush, and the film is filmed in a kind of hyper real style, in the sense that you will have moments of normality that will slide seamlessly into a kung fu action scene, and someone will throw someone through a wooden.
Sirens on Iron.
Thank you. Someone will throw someone through a wooden door, and it will be brushed off like it's nothing. And it's like, oh, this is clearly invoking, martial arts movies.
Yeah.
And it's got, big, bold, very sort of like genre B-movie font that says Polite Society. And, when people square off against each other, it's like, it says Khan versus Khan. And so it follows Rhea, who is this teenager I mentioned. She wants to be a stuntwoman with her life as well. She's growing up in a British Pakistani household. And I think what's interesting about Polite Society is that it is refreshingly different. It's vibrant and it's full of energy, and it's really gutsy. That also slightly runs out of steam.
Okay.
So like I said, she's living at home, and she's got this sister who's an artist that she loves dearly, and her sister helps her film video content for her YouTube channel, which is her doing stunts and stuff. And there's some really nice skewering of South Asian stereotypes in terms of the role of women and career expectations. You know, every time someone says to her that you can go have your work experience at the school that she attends, they say, well, you can do your work experience at the doctor. She's like, doctors? Like, I don't want to be a doctor. She really resents this stereotype. And similarly, the sort of role of the South Asian auntie or matriarchal figure is really sent up in this. And the first thing I want to say about what I really liked is that Rhea, as a central character, is really great. She's really, like, just so punchy is obviously obvious. She's martial arts person, but like she's really, really passionate and confident, but also has her uncertainties and her anxieties. And she like loves her sister, and she just really doesn't like the fact that her sister, who's this sort of tortures artist, has met this person, this boyfriend, and is just like, it's given her a whole new lease of life. The whole family loves it, but Rhea really can't stand it. And there's this kind of undercurrent of sadness, which is like, it's because you can't grow up with the fact that your sister is growing apart from you, and it's actually like, you know, in a relationship with someone else. And that's really nice undercurrent. And she's played by this newcomer called Priya Kansara, and she's been in a couple of like TV bits, a bit of some Netflix stuff like Bridgerton. But like, she is such a joy to watch. I was like, I'm really enjoying watching your presence on the screen. And she gives Rhea like she's so entertaining. And I was like, she's great. I was like, this Priya Kansara is just holding this thing together. It's fantastic, and I really can't wait to see her in other stuff. It's like I said, it's got this kind of good, funny sense of humor. There's good few funny lines in there and stuff. There's a bit where, you know, Rhea says to her father, like, how can you let this marriage happen? Because, you know, it sort of builds towards a marriage very quickly between the sister and the new boyfriend. And it's like the skewing of arranged marriages. And the father says, it's not an arranged marriage. We've just, you know, outsourced the search for a romantic partner to a consultancy that happens to be run by us. And in that search, and it's really funny and nice. The film like quickly will slide into other genres, like I said. But like, for example, there's a middle section where they're like, we're going to do a heist now. And you're like, okay, sure. And she's got these two friends, one of whom is played by Ella Broccolari, who is so funny as just one of those people who, like, as soon as they walk into the room, they're funny. She has this great comedic presence, and I was enjoying all the moment that she was in it. What to say the thing is, when I said about runs out of steam, is that you've got all that stuff in it, which is great, and it's working your way. Like, okay, this is fine. And like I said, hyper stylized. She goes to this school where they're all wearing these like bright blood red smocks, and they've all got red backpacks. You're like, okay. Sometimes I would say the balance between, you know, when it goes hyper real, hyper stylized, and actually like being grounded is sometimes a little bit shaky, but like ultimately that's fine. It does get silly, which is fine. It's kind of with the territory. If you're bringing in other genres, that's okay. Like that whole high sequence, it's a bit silly, but it's kind of fun. And then in the third act, the film goes, yeah, now we're going to do this. And you go, oh, okay, I thought we were going to do like a film about family that invokes and brings in a little bit of genre stuff here and there, but you've decided to go for a huge genre switch in the third act, and we're now going to do that. And I was like, okay, that not quite on board. Well, it's just not as interesting. I think you almost felt like saying to it, I was like, oh, you didn't actually have to do that. You didn't have to do the slightly generic approach. You could have stuck with what you were doing with the family stuff, and instead you get a kind of less interesting version, which leans into. The most interesting way you could kind of read the third act without spoiling about it is that it is a very funny articulation and skewering of a very particular South Asian stereotype, right? That they've rendered through a particular genre. And I was like, yes, on paper that's a funny joke. Okay. But I was like, this has just made this a different film now, and it's actually less interesting because it's not about the people anymore. It's not about the family dynamic. It's kind of trying to be into like a blockbuster, which is a shame. But and I think so. It runs out of steam. It's a little bit silly, but it's kind of interesting enough to hold your attention. It does that thing which I don't like that a couple of British films do when they try and be hyper stylized, which is end up being quite American. And there's, for
Right.
example, there's a scene towards the end of the film where Rhea and her sister are in a diner, and it's like, I'm talking like those long, cylindrical metal American diners you get.
Yeah.
And they've got a milkshake and they've got a burger, and I'm like, I get that this is kind of like stylized and cinematic and stuff, but I'm like, for a film that begins as being like Shepherd's Bush, London, I thought I don't know anywhere in London that's like that. I don't know a single place.
They're always like ironic themed diners, like Ed's Diner used to be a thing.
Right,
in the UK.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's still around, but
and I was like, I would have preferred like the actual British version of this, like stuck to it.
Greasy
But
calf.
what?
A greasy calf.
A greasy calf, exactly. Yeah. So that's a shame. I think what's interesting is that people will probably Sorry, what I'm trying to say is that I think what will play to this film's strengths and weaknesses is its proximity to Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is, again, a film about, in that case, Asian American families, talking about Asian American tropes and family dynamics.
Originally a very it opens with a very grounded and unsensational setting.
But then brings in martial arts, different genres to
Multiverse.
The multiverse to explore an emotional heart. And I think that this film probably wouldn't have had the exposure that it's got. It was already in production. Don't get me wrong. When it came, it's concurrent with Everything Everywhere. But I'm sure that marketers and producers were like, oh, well, it's great because people have an appetite now for seeing these kind of family dynamics played out in that way. And I think the comparison is not helpful. It might have helped the film get a wider release, but I think it's also unhelpful because I think Everything Everywhere did a better job of maintaining the heart of its story while also bringing in the wilder stuff. But ultimately, it's a film that really enjoys reclaiming its space. It really is trying to stand out and be different.
Yeah.
I just thought it became slightly weaker and slightly less interesting the more it went on. But if you catch it about, it's a little curiosity.
Nice. Guys, if you've seen Polite Society and you have any thoughts, opinions, concerns, please send your opinions in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com.
Oh, just one thing I forgot to say. When we talked about Guardians last week, we were talking about, we kind of did a mini review of the cinema in which we saw it.
Yes, yeah.
So I saw Polite Society at the Barbican, which was fine. I was worried the sound wasn't going to be good enough, but it was perfectly nice. But what I liked, this is a little hack. If you're someone who is very paranoid that an audience is going to is either be on their phone or be talking on their phone or getting calls, that stuff, the Barbican, because it's like essentially a concrete bunker, no signal, no phone service, so undisturbed all the way through. And I was like, that's a good little hack.
Speaking of concrete bunkers, I'm going to talk about Silo.
Oh, right, okay.
I love that you came up with
Thank
Concrete
you, yeah.
Bunker.
Tell me about Silo.
Silo, which is a show that I kind of feel like I need to whisper when I say it. Silo. The Silo. It's an Apple TV Plus show that I saw a few trailers for. And it, like a lot of Apple TV Plus shows, they just look expensive. And I just feel like Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, goes to every producer and says, how much money do you need to realize the best version of your show? And they say a number that's outrageous, and he goes, done, go make it. Go make me the best show you can. And I'm looking at this show, Silo, and it looks expensive. Silo is based on a book series, which I've not read. Oh, a book? Could be a series, I'm not sure, which I've not read. And the TV show, this is a concept show.
Okay, right.
This is like, the show is a central mystery. It very much is evoking Severance. It very much is evoking a little bit of Lost in there. It looks a lot, it kind of like reminds me of the Fallout games, basically like with the whole idea of the bunker. And the opening 5 lines of the show explain its premise, and they are echoed many times throughout. Okay. I'm not going to be reviewing this because I've only seen 2 episodes, and I don't want to...
2 of 8? 2 of 10? What is it?
Good question. About that number. Okay. I can't confirm. And they're coming out weekly, and I don't want to sort of say, this is a good show, this is a bad show. I think that's all very much to be seen. So it's more of my first impressions watching this show. I'm going to read you the first 5 lines of the entire show, and the fact that it repeats this very much. The show opens in a silo. We do not know why we are here. We do not know who built the silo. We do not know why everything outside the silo is as it is. We do not know when it will be safe to go outside. We only know that day is not today. Silo.
Okay.
The silo is a massive underground bunker, but it's barely a bunker. It's like an entire city that goes hundreds of layers deep. Oh, it reminds me a bit of Zion in The Matrix.
Right, okay.
Like kind of that scale, less sort of underground ravey and more just like functional living, like big spiraling things. They've got like agriculture, police stations, schools, just an entire society, farming, jobs, markets within this one society. And it looks just brilliant. Like all of these shots where it looks down the side, I'm like, how did they film it? Where did they film it? It all just looks very, very cool. Kind of like the rebuild of Canary Wharf Station on the Elizabeth line. It's a bit like grungier and less, kind of less like that. It stars David Oyelowo, Rashida Jones, Rebecca Ferguson, and Tim Robbins. So this first episode takes place over the course of...
Oh, so Tim Robbins?
Tim Robbins is in that. Yeah, being a very like sort of elusive guy. The first episode, interestingly, takes place over the course of 3 years. And we are greeted with a character played by David Oyelowo, who's one of the sheriffs of the silo, and his wife, Rashida Jones. And what's interesting about the silo is you need to be approved to be able to procreate. So if you want to have a baby, you have to send in like an application form, and then if you're lucky, you'll get approved, and you'll have a 365-day window to try and get pregnant. And what that means is you go in to the doctor and you have your mandatory birth control removed, and then you have a chance to create children. And these two are not able to have kids, and they sort of start to realize that maybe they were never meant to be allowed to have kids, and a certain type of person is allowed to have kids. There are certain rules of the silo. You are not allowed to talk about or reference the rebels that came before, and the rebellion, and the things that they lost, and the things that they burnt. That people have been in the silo for 140 years, so it's longer than anyone's been alive, hence why nobody knows why they're in the silo, who built it, for what reason it's there. If you uncover what are called relics from the world before, you are in big trouble. You are not allowed to look at things from the old world. Everything has a sort of slightly 1980s computer tech, slightly analog technological feel to it. We don't know what time period it's set, but I'm seeing like box computers with the curved screens and all these like tapes and cassettes and old sort of non-specific looking hard drives. Rashida Jones, through a guy who runs like a computer workshop, uncovers a relic. And it's essentially like a hard drive from the time before. And they put it in the system, and they're like, we shouldn't be doing this. And it's saying that the hard drive is full, but they can't access the files. What they do find is quite interesting. So in the cafeteria, in their offices, in all the main places, there is like a massive window. You know, like in Arrival, the window that they view the aliens in, this like sort of circular, it's like one of those. And it is a constant camera feed of what is outside the silo. And it is this barren wasteland. It looks like a nuclear fallout with a tree that's basically dead, and the bodies of people who have left the silo, who only make it for 3 minutes. Because when they leave the silo, the atmosphere, the poison, basically kills them within 3 minutes. If you say you want to leave the silo, you will be taken outside the silo, be put in a suit, and the entire society will watch you on this live camera feed be basically killed because you said you wanted to leave. In that hard drive, Rashida Jones discovers that the camera feed that they are seeing might be a lie. And actually, it is lush, green, birds, blue sky, and the fact that they're in a silo is a lie. There's a conspiracy theory where she believes that her contraception was actually never removed, and she basically loses her mind and screams, I want to leave the silo. And her husband, David Oyelowo, is like, oh my God, like you basically just sentenced yourself to death. And she says to him, listen, I believe with all of my heart that what they are showing us is a lie. And every time you see someone walk out of the silo, that's not a real camera feed, it is fake. And when you are leaving, it's like a camera lens that's very dirty, and you are given in your packet the device to clean the lens, and you're meant to go out and wipe the lens so that everyone else can see what is outside the silo. And so she tells him, when I go up, if the world is what it is as they show us, I will know I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I will clean the lens, and I will probably die right there. If it isn't that, and I look out there and the sky is blue and the grass is green and it's fine, I will walk over the hill and I will go find some, and I will come back and I will get you.
Wow.
And in the first episode, Rashida Jones closes, walks up outside the silo, and I'm not going to say what happens because I think you should watch it for yourself. But I remember I watched about 15, 20 minutes of it, And I was like, oh, concept heavy, real, like, this is the mystery. The central show is really like burdened by the mystery of why are we in the silo? What's outside the silo? And Tally's just watched, she's like, what's this show you're watching? Because it kind of felt like Hunger Games in. It just looked sort of kind of interesting. I was like, it's called the silo. You can't leave the silo. We don't know why the silo's there. And we watched the first episode. This was late last night. And I was like, I've got to go to bed. I've got to do the podcast. And then I got to the end of the first episode. And I said to her, I will die if I don't find out what's outside the silo. I must know. So we watched the second episode. It is... I'm only 2 episodes
Can it sustain itself?
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? That's why I'm not going to be like, this is an amazing show, blah, blah, blah. It really got its hooks into me. It's a cool premise. Look, it's not as original as an idea like Severance, which I hadn't really seen done before. I feel like I have seen lots of echoes of this idea.
Utopia society might be dystopian. They're lying to us.
They're lying to us.
When you said camera feed, I was like, yeah, it's probably a lie. Yeah.
Right, so like from the very beginning, it doesn't bullshit you. Like, oh yeah, we're just happy in our underground bunker. It's like, no, straight to the fact that this is probably all bullshit. Like, we're going to uncover its mystery. Everyone's lying in some form. To what extent they are remains to be seen. I'm apprehensive to say, this is the best show, go watch it, you've got to see it. But after 2 episodes, I'm enjoying describing the premise to you.
Okay.
That's what I enjoyed about it. It's a sort of kind of an interesting show, and just it looks fantastic. The cinematography is fantastic. All the design and the wides of the show, I'm like, God, they just throw the money at it. That's all. Interesting show so far. I will keep watching it. I need to know what's outside the silo. Yeah, weekly episodes from now.
Have you seen The Silo? If you have, let us know at hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Maybe you've seen. Is it binge watching or weekly?
Weekly.
Okay.
Just said that.
I wasn't listening to you because I just drifted off thinking about The Silo. Yeah. There you go. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, let us know.
George, moving on to another TV show that you've kind of started watching. You checked out Beef.
Yes.
What do you think? Beef. Big capitals.
Beef.
Stamp.
It is. And the opening credits of Beef, they don't say beef, but it's a big like klaxon playing. If anyone knows that Justice song that goes like bum 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 dong.
Yes, that one.
Ding dong ding 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 dong. It's got that opening klaxon. So for every time the title comes up, it's always like bum.
I can just ask, is it Beef the cow or Beef the We Gonna Fight?
Beef We Gonna Fight.
Lovely.
There are no cows so far. So Beef, this is a new show on Netflix, which I've seen 4 episodes of out of 10.
A first impression, not a review.
This isn't really a review because I can't do it justice because I haven't seen the whole thing. But in watching it, I thought, and due to our recording schedule, I thought it's best to talk about it now, whilst I'm in the thick of it. So Beef is this show set in LA, and it centers on Ali Wong and Steven Yeun. Okay, Steven Yeun, of course, we're familiar with The Walking Dead, and I really love Steven Yeun's career trajectory of having graduated from TV character in a huge show to actually being a really interesting indie actor. He was in Burning, and he was in Nope and Minari, and now he's in this, and he's a great actor. And Ali Wong is a name I knew, but is not someone I'm familiar with. She's a comedian primarily, right?
The stand-up's great,
and she's great in this as an actor. Beef begins in like I said, in California. And Steven Yeun is at a hardware store, like a B&Q, right? And he's always a garden center, whatever. But he's like trying to return something, and it is clear that he is having the worst time. He very much reminds me of Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea, world weary, worn down, desperately
out with your friends,
desperately trying to make ends meet and just beating down the wall. He's trying to return these barbecues. He hasn't got the receipt. There's people moaning behind him. The cashier is giving him grief. He's getting stressed. He doesn't have it. So he goes, okay, fine. He goes to the parking lot, he gets into his car, and it's like, it's small things, like he'll go to put his belt on, his belt catches on the thing, and he has to he hates the fact he has to really slowly put it in. He is having the worst day. He goes to leave this parking lot. He goes to leave, and as he reverses, this white 4x4 comes behind him and beeps its horn really loudly, and just the most obnoxious, loud, infuriating horn. And Steven Yeun is like, what? And it goes on, the horn goes on for ages. And Steven Yeun looks back at this car, and you can't see the driver, and it sort of slow zooms in on the car. And Steven Yeun's like, what? All right, dude, all right. And then the 4x4 drives off, gets to the exit of the car park, and then flips the finger back at Steven Yeun. And this makes Steven Yeun snap. He goes, you know what? No fucking way. And he's there in his like 2004 like Hyundai, pickup truck. Yeah. Fucking reverses out and chases after this 4x4. And you have this sort of 10-minute car chase, road rage scene where Steven Yeun is chasing this car down. The car is throwing litter behind it. It's evading him. It gets confrontational. They go over people's front lawns. They go into a rich neighborhood. They have to be quiet. It's really, really tense, entertaining stuff. And the road rage scene ends with the white car managed to get away. And this is all in the opening 10 minutes. And Steven Yeun is just there trying to memorize the number plates. Going, okay, 61, 61. And at that point, we cut to the front of the white car, and it's Ali Wong's character who is driving back. She arrives home. She's very wealthy, got an excellent, beautiful house. And she pulls up into the garage, and she's like, garage. And she's like clearly shaken, but maybe slightly empowered by the experience she's just had. And her husband's there, who is such a wet blanket, but like handsome, fashionable. He's an artist, but also just like so ineffectual. She's like, hey, honey, what's up? You look a little shaky. Yeah, no, it's fine. Oh, hey, before you, because she starts to almost tell him about it. And he goes, hey, just remember, don't spiral. Remember what the doctor said? Let's take a couple of breaths here. And he's just so infuriating. Yeah. And what you then have from this major road rage incident, is it's like the domino effect of how these two people's different stories intersect and intertwine, and they have this titular beef between them, okay? And it's funny because they are in completely different circumstances, but actually share a lot of characteristics. So Ali Wong's character does have money troubles. They're not the same money troubles as Steven Yeun's character. Right. She's trying to sell her business to this quite elusive, obnoxious businesswoman called, I can't remember what she's called, but she's played by Maria Bello, who's very wealthy. And there's a really interesting scene where she goes to this investors or potential buyers' house, and she's laying on this, it's just this crazy, modernist house, and she's laying on this mushroom evening. And Ali Wong is like, oh, it's like magic mushrooms evening. We're going to do one of those. This will be fun. We'll free ourselves. And it's not. It's like a whole dinner degustation about the importance of mushrooms. And it's this really fancy, like overly produced evening. And it cuts with Steven Yeun, like out in the hills on his pickup truck with like a bag of 4 cheeseburgers from Burger King. And he is chronically stress eating them, shoving them down to the point that he's about to be sick. And when he just about can't be sick, he then starts eating another one. And he's calling a real estate agent to try and buy something. He's got something where his parents, due to something in his past that happened at the motel they owned, they've had to move back to Korea. He's having to deal with a cousin who was slightly involved in that and caused that problem, who's got a criminal past, who comes back on the scene. He's trying to get more money. He's got a good-for-nothing brother who just spends his whole time trying to earn crypto. Meanwhile, Ali Wong has got this artist husband who's useless but stay at home, and their daughter is beautiful and they love her, but she's also like artistic and temperamental. And you have these two characters who are bonded and bound by this beef at the beginning, but they have these links that unite them. But obviously this beef is running through. It's the Steven Yeun, as the more the world grinds him down, the more he fixates on that road rage incident as being exemplifying the universe being against him. So one of the things he does in the first episode, he comes into a little bit of money and he's like, I could pay $75 to get the address and details of from that person's number plate. So he does do that, and you kind of get this constant like back and forth between something he will do to Ali Wong's character, something Ali Wong's character will do to his character, and with every episode it gets increasingly messy and stressful. It's a predominantly Asian American cast. Yeah. So obviously, like I said, Steven Yeun is a Korean family. Ali Wong's character's family, I believe, is from China, and her husband's Japanese. And actually, one of the people who got me onto this show was a guy I know from work who is Chinese Australian, and he was like, "I've just finished Beef. It's really funny. It's really sending up so many Asian tropes and dynamics, and also liberating them in a way that we talked about with like Everything Everywhere. But it's like It's just that all these characters you either have seen them before, but they've only had one dimension to them in films, or you've seen these characters before, but they've all been white. Yeah. And this is much more a different context. And you've got the idea of like intergenerational success and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting, and it's shot in this very kind of like odd, stylized, quite confrontational way. And I'm 4 episodes in. There's 10 episodes. Each episode is about 35 minutes long, which is fine. And I'm thinking, this is really different and really interesting and really surprising. I don't know anything like it. I'm enjoying the kind of journey it's taking me. All I will say is I'm slightly uncertain of how long it can sustain itself over 10 episodes. Yeah, because I'm at 4 episodes in now, and I'm thinking, for something that hangs on this type of premise, I would have almost preferred it to be slightly tighter. This could have been a good 8, maybe even a 6. A hot 6. Could have been a hot 6. At 10 episodes, I'm thinking, okay, either things are going to get really crazy.
Really shift or twist or cut away
well, exactly.
from the action.
So that might still happen. And I have no doubt that if I get to the end of this series and I come to talk about it again on this show, I would be like, oh my God, that show went completely different to where I was only 40% of the way through.
Hence why first impressions.
Hence why this is the first impressions. But if you did want to see a show that was different and kind of, I'm sure, I haven't seen The Bear, so I don't want to make this comparison, but I think the way that people talked about The Bear was like, oh, a show that's come out of nowhere that is shot in a really different style with new talent. I kind of feel that way about Beef. It's like shot in a particular style, has really interesting themes and messages, but it's also entertaining and stressful and cringing and uncomfortable.
Are the episodes consistent lengths?
Yes, they're all about 35 minutes long.
Right.
And so that's Beef. So I anchored by great, really, really, really great performances by Ali Wong and Stephen Yeun. So that's Beef. If you've seen it,
check it out.
Yeah, let me know what you think. And I look forward to finishing it, and I will let you know my thoughts.
Guys, if you've seen Beef, or you're watching Beef, or you'd like to know more about Beef, please send in your questions, thoughts, concerns to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. Guys, it's that time of the episode again where we turn to our audience for inspiration, for controversial opinion.
Yes.
For
lend us your ears.
Messages sent from their iPhones or their Android tablets, as they love to put in the bottom of the emails. If you guys wanted to send us an email, you can do by emailing to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. Just like Josh did. Josh writes in and says, hey lads, I've been to see Evil Dead Rise as well. We were a group of 3.
Okay.
One of us turned the other way in her chair. I don't know why that's relevant, but one of us turned the other way in her chair and stared at the guy behind us. The other were...
Hang on. What? One of them...
One of us turned the other way in her chair and stared at the guy behind us.
It's a way of viewing the film, because they didn't like the film?
Let's find out. The other was fascinated by the gore. I had watched the previous 4 movies for the first time in the same week before going.
Wow.
The 2013 remake had a similar tone, but suffers in the same way as described in the podcast. Now to the main point of my email. Me and my bird have got an unlimited card and I've been to watch 12 movies in cinema in April alone.
Wow.
Where'd you get this unlimited card from?
Probably one of the major cinemas, James, that are out at the moment.
Oh, yeah, you pay for an unlimited card.
Unlimited card,
yes.
yeah. It's not just they found it down the back of the seat. They're like, oh my God,
we got a magic card. We watched over 200 movies last year in and out of the cinema. That is a lot of films.
Impressive. Are you including rewatches in that, though?
That is 4 a week.
That's the dream.
Isn't that nuts? 200.
I think that's like COVID level for me. That's what I was doing.
Peak. We rate every movie we watch on IMDb and have a whole catalogue on there now. So we do truly love movies. But my favourite movies, bar superhero movies, are Warrior, Good Will Hunting, The Gentleman. Can I get a brief rundown on your opinion of these 3 movies and how you'd rank them best to worst? You guys have made my movie experience so much more rewarding, and listening has increased my love for movies, if possible. Josh,
thank you for that lovely email. And the kind words. On those 3 movies, so the first one was
Warrior.
Only seen it once.
Liked it.
Tom Hardy,
Joel Edgerton, gritty UFC,
solid.
MMA.
Yeah, it's quite... it's a movie, you know. It's like you're like family getting together, big things.
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't love me, but solid. Like it has.
Yeah, really cool little MMA movie.
Yeah,
that and Never Back Down leading the fray. Good Will Hunting, I love.
Good Will Hunting's great. I've only seen that once, but it's
really, really good. I like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon talking about Good Will Hunting.
Yeah,
there's quite just a nice story that they wrote this together and wrote it for themselves, and they like pitched their agent. No, we've written this script, and their agent's like, okay, great, yeah, you and every actor has written yourself a script, but it just got shopped around and picked up and became them.
It's a lovely movie. I'd like to rewatch that.
Have you seen Louis C.K.'s sketch on Good Will Hunting?
No,
it's so funny. It's about Matt Damon writing himself as like a genius in Good Will Hunting. I'm not going to do it, but you can search it out. It really kind of deconstructs the film in a very funny way. And then The Gentleman, which I assume is the Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, you've not seen that.
I've not seen The Gentleman.
I have seen that. Well, first of all, you can look forward to the TV series of that coming out.
Yes, coming out on Netflix.
How do I think about The Gentleman? I had very low opinion going into watching The Gentleman. And I think the nicest thing I can say about it is that I was surprised at how long I enjoyed it for before it ended up being the thing I exactly thought it would be.
Okay, fine.
So it's like, I went with it a long time and I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of going with this. And then by the end, I was like, yeah, it was quite silly and a little bit, some of it I find a bit off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I'm not sure that sits with me. It's got a little bit of a bad aftertaste for me, but it's actually much more entertaining than I previously anticipated. So it's fine.
So we could probably go Goodwill 1, Warrior 2,
and then
Gentleman 3.
I still would, if anyone, Guy Ritchie for me, I still just think Lock, Stock and Snatch. Those are the two ones that I really rate. Those are funny and different and young and full of energy. But Gentleman's fine. But it has actually got a lot of, I know a lot of people who also rate The Gentleman.
Yeah.
It had quite a massive appeal.
Did it do really well in the box office? I have a feeling it could have done.
It must have done well enough for them to get a series out of it. Thank you so much. Oh, but sorry. No, but that thing about the person turning around. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I assume your friend didn't want to watch it because of the gore, but I just think of this
one of us turned the other way in her chair and stared at the guy behind us. Imagine watching it well. Because it's too scary, they just go,
some guy you just sat there and these pair of eyes.
Imagine if it was a woman as well, because in The Evil Dead, I've seen it's like a scary woman. Someone just did that to me in cinema. I would lose my mind. How distracting for the poor guy behind you. This next one is from Taha, who says, Hi guys, my name is Taha. That's spelled Taher. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm from the Middle East. I just wanted to tell you that I enjoy your podcast and I'm also a bit of a movie fanatic myself. I was watching EP30 when you were talking about big moments in some of the movies you've watched and you mentioned the movie Nocturnal Animals.
Yes.
And it made me realize that this movie is the kind of movie that I can't get myself to watch for a second time. Not because I didn't like it, but because it's too traumatic to watch again.
Fair enough.
It made me think of other movies like Manchester by the Sea, Never Let Me Go, and Atonement. Real heavy films you just listed there. And I'd like to know if you guys have any movies like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Nocturnal Animals, as I said, probably in episode 30. Adore Nocturnal Animals.
Same.
I have seen it, I think, 3 times now.
Oh, wow,
I think it's brilliant. It is difficult to watch, but what a film.
Yeah.
Tom Ford. Can you just make... I know he was going to do The Whale with James Corden, apparently, but can you just make a film every 3 years, please?
I've had clips pushed to me of A Single Man on TikTok. I'm like, that film is gorgeous.
Oh, Single Man. Yeah, he makes beautiful films, which could easily be like the Tom Ford Spring-Summer Collection campaign. But he also, Sirens on our end, he also refuses to put Tom Ford clothing in Tom Ford films.
Yeah.
That's a fact of principle.
Because I remember... Amy Adams wearing those Celine glasses in Nocturnal Animals. Yeah. Huge, big, chunky frames.
Sorry.
We have had this question before from someone else about films that are so good that you'd never watch again.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it at the time, but I think the answer I gave was Elephant, Gus Van Sant's Elephant, which is about a high school shooting.
Yes.
Told in a very direct, bleak, experimental style.
You also made a comment about films which are difficult and tricky and complicated. There never is a good time to watch them until you just say, do you know what, I'm going to watch it. And it's
like
not.
Son of Saul.
Son of Saul,
no good time
anything related to like genocide, Holocaust.
Yeah. Like Come and See, that's the thing with it. Have you seen Come and See?
No.
So Come and See is this Ukrainian film from 1986, which like people talk about in the same breath as like Son of Saul because it's just an endless litany about the horrors of war, in this case World War II. And like it's regarded as a very good film, but it's just like everyone I speak to about it is like, oh my God, yeah, it's just awful. And I'm like, I do want to watch that, but I'm trying to find the right time. But there is no right time. The film's not going to change. So I think maybe it's one of those things, like I said before, it's like a morning film.
Yeah.
Get in the morning, then try and wash it out for you.
Fresh. Like Atonement, I've only seen once, but that's very heavy.
Oh,
Never Let Me Go as well. Great Andrew Garfield and Karen Mulligan performance of that, and Keira Knightley too. Lovely.
Okay,
next one.
So this next email is from Steve. Now, Steve is a first-time emailer, but he is a friend of the show. Very good friend of the show because he's actually related to my girlfriend by being her father.
I know you probably assumed that everyone who emailed in was just our mums and our cousins and our
This
uncles.
is the first time we've sort of had pseudo-family write in, right?
Yeah.
This... Steve is the one who is keeping up our US listeners, our Florida
ticking up the
listener figures up. So, Steve says, if you've done this subject before, please disregard.
Never.
But I don't think we have. Hi, guys. Love the pod. Obligatory opening. I've just watched episode 69. Sorry, I need to catch up.
Come on,
get
Steve.
your act together. Having just watched George murder the Geordie accent reading the Matthew from Sunderland email,
Apologies
I have no
again to
memory of
Matthew.
that.
I think Matthew put "All right, lads" as
All
the top
right,
bit,
lads.
and we did an "All right, lads."
All right, sorry. Steve says, a Pulp Kitchen style question crossed my mind. What movies can you guys think of where an actor portrayed a character whose accent was different to their own, and if you didn't know any better, you would assume they were from that region? Or conversely, where what can you recall movies where actors, despite their best efforts, it didn't work? So basically, best accents by an actor who's not from the place that they're portraying,
best accents.
and the worst. And Steve gives some examples of the worst. Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October, which I've never seen.
No, I believe you.
Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins, famous.
Probably one of the
What
worst
about,
ever.
well, and then Brad Pitt in Troy here.
Yeah, Brad Pitt in Troy is doing an English accent.
I don't
but
remember.
I don't think it's a hard English. He's kind of just like, no one will remember your name. It's very like sort of royal and regal. And
What about, I thought you'd say Keanu Reeves in Dracula.
yes, he's doing a British accent. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Yes, that's definitely the worst.
Keep up the great work. It actually makes us look forward to visiting the gym.
Oh,
Keep going.
He's going to be absolutely swollen next time we see him.
Steve from Florida.
He'll be like, I caught up.
Get this, James. Steve from Florida, sent from Yahoo Mail on Android.
Unbelievable. Unheard of.
So best accents. I mean, I always feel like there's a slight stereotype, but I think British actors are better at doing accents than our American fellows.
Yes.
No offense, guys.
Have you seen Tom Hiddleston do that thing where he floats between all of the regional accents perfectly?
Oh, really?
He's very good.
What I
Tom
will
Hiddleston.
say is Lake Bell, she's an
Yes, I
American
like Lake
actress.
Bell.
She's great.
Underrated.
She did, in that film I've mentioned a few times, Man Up, she does a perfect English accent.
Really?
She pulls off being there, because her role could be played by so many British actresses that we know. I don't know why it was Lake Bell, but like she pulls it off perfectly well. There was never a point when I was watching it when I was like, you're not from here though. And like, so if you can get past our filter, it's fine, which is weird because also in that film is Sharon Horgan, who's Irish, who they make her play an English accent because she's meant to be Lake Bell's sister, and it doesn't work. Anyway.
Who's that? Is it? I don't. It sounds kind of rude. I think Gerard Butler's not that great at an American accent.
No.
I've always found his a little bit ropey, but I don't want to just like rail on actors who've done it badly.
Has Michael Caine ever tried to do American?
Oh, he must have done.
Yeah.
Now he does Michael Caine. That's why
of
he's
course.
great. Daniel Day-Lewis sounds like no one in any film.
just
He
sounds
sounds
like
like his own version of whatever he happens to be doing.
Yeah.
Like in Gangs of New York, he's his own brand.
Is
his
that, I mean,
voice.
I haven't seen that in a long, once. Is it good?
Years ago. I couldn't comment. It's probably worth a rewatch. It's quite a long one.
I think, because John C. Reilly's in that, and Stephen Graham's in that, I think.
Liam Neeson's in there. Young Leo, youngish Leo.
Other accents. I think that's. I can only think of, because the good ones, if they're good enough, you don't notice
You
it.
don't notice it, yeah.
I think. Oh, you know what? Cumberbatch in Doctor Strange is
I know what you
right
mean.
on the edge.
It's less.
It's that very kind of American talk. It's like that.
Well, you can't be saying that it's
You care
conditioned with
so
psychosomatic.
much, don't you? It's a bit theatrical.
And then you cut to Tilda Swinton, like, not really.
Yeah,
Like really dry and quiet and unassuming. She's great, Tilda Swinton.
She is great. She also she's a master of accents.
Oh
in
yes,
particular as well.
I bet.
Cool. Thank you, Steve, for that email.
Thank you, Steve. This next one is from Finn, who says, hi, James and George. Last time I asked you about Westerns and mentioned I was parking cars while listening to the pod.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? You said I park cars for a job. We assumed
A valet.
runner.
Ripping up donuts in the car park.
Yes. We just didn't really, like, as a job,
Yeah.
what could come to mind. But Finn likes to fill us in. He says, you speculated I was a runner or a valet. Alas, I'm but a humble car park attendant and uni student. Lovely.
Yes, that's
But, Finn, are you AirPods / headphones
Like
in
Baby
ear,
Driver?
like Baby Driver, or are you just like putting your phone on the dashboard and having us on while you drive? Because I hope you just. I assume you're not like connecting the aux and the
Hang on,
Bluetooth to every car you
But
get
isn't
into.
a car park attendant a valet? Isn't that the same thing? Do we have those in the UK? No. What is a car park attendant?
I'm a
How do
humble
you
car park attendant and uni student. Is that the person who stands at the barrier and who like gives you your ticket?
But he said previously that he was parking
Cars. Who parks cars? Finn, I'm sorry. I need way more information about your job role. But
Regardless,
do you think he like does the Bluetooth for every car he's in?
So the driver gets back in, it won't pair to their driver.
My question is, what are your favourite instances of an actor going outside of their comfort zone or typical role they play? my favorite is Steve Carell in The Way, Way Back, who does a good... I mean, Steve Carell's good for a lot of them,
And
to be honest.
Foxcatcher.
Yeah, and Big Short.
Yeah.
Who does a good job of playing cheating, truly nasty stepfather, whereas I feel he is normally known for being a good, more wholesome, or at least for being good, more wholesome, or at least kind. Another example would be Jim Carrey playing a vulnerable, lonely man, lamenting his losses in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, as opposed to his more classic Carrey performance. Many thanks. Finn, just park on over.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Beep, 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 beep. Stand back. This vehicle is reversing.
Yeah, I like
Stand
to think
back.
he's just driving a car very slowly, and we're like, this next one's from Finn. He's like, oh! Crashes the car, yeah.
The thing is, well, it's the best example. You've mentioned two comic actors there shifting into drama, which is always a great thing to see. Actors out of their comfort zone. I don't. This isn't an actor outside of the comfort zone, but just we mentioned Stephen Graham just there. I do love the fact that Stephen Graham, national treasure for being lots of high-class British content, turns up in The Irishman as like as a good plum role.
And it's not that
he has a scene where he has to square off
like
with,
he's really he's like a really sort of homegrown.
Yeah, and he's sharing the screen with Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and Al Pacino, and he has a scene where he has to sort of square off against Al Pacino, and I'm like, and he completely holds his own.
Yeah,
and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy seeing someone come through and do that.
I'm going to try not to bring up The Hobbit in every episode, but Martin Freeman being cast in like a very grounded English, he's known for his normal dry delivery, is cast in the fantastical high Tolkien thing, and he gives it this real, like, because you think about like what a Hobbit is, it is all about like homegrown countryside, humble. He really brings that whole fantasy down with his delivery, and Peter Jackson famously like delayed the entire production to have Martin Freeman cast in it. He was filming Sherlock at the time, and they like worked with the BBC to fit his filming around Sherlock so they could do The Hobbit, because he had to move out to New Zealand. And that's like, I wouldn't have been an obvious choice to cast him in that.
The other way around, a drama actor doing comedy, I have always loved John Hamm in Bridesmaids.
Yeah,
really
that's a good one.
You're no longer my number 3.
Yeah, John Cena doing comedy.
Yeah,
like, he's actually really,
he turned
really
a
good.
train wreck, and LeBron James was good in that too.
Yeah, LeBron James. Who are the other? Like Seth Rogen doing Steve
Seth Rogen,
Jobs, and most recently The Fabelmans is really, really good doing that kind of thing. Like, because you would never have assumed that, and I assume that is out of his comfort zone.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill in Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh,
such a good performance.
Amazing role. He like begged for that role. He's like, I know this character. I was born to play this character.
That's
and he pitched Leo, and Leo pitched it to Scorsese, and then he had a meal with Scorsese.
Yeah.
And great.
That's
great.
Jonah Hill in Wolf of Wall Street.
Lovely.
Our next email is from Cameron. Now, Cameron wrote in before, as you remember.
Yes.
Working in the super secretive environment
dictatorship production company where he edits photos, and also with one ear through his headpiece under sworn secrecy out of fear of we don't know.
Yeah, working as a sort of Orwellian nightmare where we are played on a tab on his computer screen, but surreptitiously.
He will give us a little bit of information
and
about where they are. We're just like, wait, what? A valet? Tell me more. You let me talk about a film like a TV series like Silo for 10 minutes, and I just get all dystopian about where our audience are.
So Cameron writes in, he says, "Hello, George and James / James and George." That's a very observant running joke about the order which
go. And I will say a lot of people have been Jay and Jaw.
J Jaw, not which well.
But I'm not. I know anything about it.
Well, maybe those people are all kitchenettes, James, and I'm getting emails from PULP.
Don't start a civil war.
Long time no see, but for you, not for me. Obviously, I get it because he's watching us. In a world where your range of fans has grown internationally, with foreign correspondents popping up left and right. Hello to all our foreign correspondents, by the way.
Yeah. Hello to the mums in North Germany.
Yes. They might not be mums.
No, I know, but it was
hello to the North German contingent. Hello to our Pakistani contingent and our Irish contingent and our Canadian contingent.
Australian.
Oh my goodness, absolutely, yeah. Oh, actually, sorry, on this point, if you're listening to this right now and you think you are our most remote listener,
yes,
let us know. If you're listening to this, you're like, I bet I am the furthest away
Fiji.
Or the most remote, like the deepest of the Orkney Islands.
Because on our audio analytics, it's like the standard breakup of all the English-speaking nations. And then there is, I swear to God, every country on planet Earth. Like there's Faroe Islands, there's like the South Polynesia, there's, which I see when someone travels and they maybe have listened to our podcast, it counts. But every country is there. There's countries I haven't heard of that are listed as less than 1%.
So if you think you are our most remote listener or most far away listener.
And what is the most remote place you've listened to the show?
Yes.
If you have been like on a layover in Antarctica and you popped an episode
Famously,
on.
one of those
layovers. Yeah, nobody ever flies like under the earth, do they?
I think that's because it's not the fastest way at all.
They're probably not.
Yeah. Anyway, that is that. So anyway, in a world where your Ranger fans has foreign correspondents, blah 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 blah, and a world where I still don't know if I'm supposed to be a kitchenette or a pulpette, haha.
So confusing times.
I have decided, in an effort not to be a fan left behind, I have heeded your advice, spelt headed, but heeded your advice, and endeared to make not just an interesting email, but the most interesting email about something that happened to me at work last week. Okay, big praise.
I assumed, Cameron, I would never hear from you again. Because you would have been caught and they would have...
Bag over your head.
6 men would have tapped you on your shoulder while you were working on little like pictures of Ethan Hunt, and they would have just dragged you in front of all your other colleagues
by the teeth
to make an example out of you, like by your ears, just hooked you and chained you to a radiator.
It would have been that thing where you're typing and then immediately your screen goes, access denied.
Yeah.
And all your colleagues are looking at you, but they're keeping their eyes down on their own work.
Nobody would make a sound.
It's like when the agents turn up to get Neo in the office.
Exactly, and you're in a room, and then they undo your binder and like you pay your taxes, you help your landlady carry out the garbage, and they're holding a picture of like a pulpette and a kitchenette unit being like, what are these? We do not know.
Where is the rabbit's foot?
Where is the rabbit's foot?
Anyway.
Electrical charge inside a brain.
Anyway, most interesting email about something that happened to me at work last week. Also, I don't want to reveal the company I work for, but I will drop clues and answer questions for you if you ask. That's Cameron just being dispatched off as we speak. I did struggle for weeks, wondering how best to make a return write-in, and then I gave up and wrote this afternoon after work involved.
Drafts all over the walls.
He puts in brackets, just in case they're listening. Please see attached. Okay. Should we do that first and then come back to the side note?
We're in your hands.
Let's go to the attachment since you've written that in that order, Cameron. So I open up an attachment that Cameron has said that is written.
Is it scanning your retina?
It is written in the script format.
Oh yeah, it's like script. Yeah,
I don't know what I
don't know what you call it, but like almost typewriter
font.
face, and then the dialogue is center aligned.
Yes, exactly. And it says interior ground floor office. I'm going to read you this script, James.
Okay, all right.
Interior ground floor office day. An early 2000s office with bulky computers and even bulkier desks can be seen organized into clusters of 4, utilizing each corner.
Oh my God.
I'm sensing like office
Severance.
space. Yeah, or severance, yeah. A fake potted plant, so sad, stands alone, central in the room, between small windows on either side and a long, directionless corridor. Ooh.
God, I feel like I'm there.
A man, probably still a boy, sits tightly up to his desk. This is our protagonist.
Yes.
Sits tightly up to his desk, sipping a Red Bull. Sorry, when I see people sipping Red Bull at like 8 o'clock in the morning on the tube, it makes me really ill.
Yeah, go on.
Sipping a Red Bull with a candy cigarette, in brackets, definitely still a boy, tucked between his lips. A one-sided headset is pressed tightly to his left ear by his hand. A radio can be heard echoing more static than music in an otherwise silent chamber. His eyes shift across the screen, consistently minimizing and reopening a Google Chrome window every 10 seconds.
Wow. Every 10 seconds?
George, I thought that was going to happen, yeah. James, it sounds like it's going to happen. I think they've got to get Daniel Radcliffe on board, basically. Someone shifts to his right, standing to exit the room. The man-boy furiously clicks on Photoshop in an attempt to reopen it before the colleague glances an obvious nosy side-eye at the monitor. George, oh yeah, name your price. Absolutely, name your price.
That's a conversation we actually had a couple of weeks ago.
James, oh yeah, he'd get there'll be like 100 mil for Daniel Radcliffe.
I hate you. I just think about you reading out our lines.
The boy man persists on with his editing. Maybe editing photos of political scandals, maybe not. His candy cigarette is more in his mouth than a cigarette should really be, but he doesn't care. Why should
Candied,
he?
like the chocolate. Well, yeah.
Sugar, yeah. But why should he care? It's just sugar, not tobacco. Like a real cigarette, like a cigarette, long and white to the human eye, just like the British hosts of a film podcast. We are very tall, but also timeless, indulgent, and better with every interaction, just like the British hosts of a film podcast. James, but we love these actors and these kids passionately, in brackets. George, I know. James, more passionately. They're like, we grew up with them. It's like recasting my brother. A smile breaks across the face of the boy who is pretending to act like a man. He covers it up by taking a big gulp of Red Bull to play off the illegal in-office.
Is Cameron 12?
No, he's just a man-child. So to cover up the facial spasm of laughter, he takes a sip of Red Bull. He calls it illegal in-office facial spasm. James continued. Do you know what I mean, my cousin? George, no, you don't have a brother. James, no. The man who is desperately trying to cling on to his youth in this email is saying... the man who is desperately trying to cling on to his youth in this email by saying he's still a boy gulps too hard on his Red Bull, breaking the flavoured chalk of the cigarette in half. He laughs out loud. Cameron. Ha! Accidentally.
Oh my God.
Eyes around the room snap up to meet him.
Oh my.
He coughs.
What could be so funny about your Photoshop, Cameron?
Yeah, he coughs, raising his hand to his mouth to hide behind it. During the fake cough, the broken cigarette has lodged itself in his throat, stabbing both sides of his inner breathing windpipe. Coughing again more violently to dislodge it just draws more attention. His face is going red in either embarrassment...
It was laced with niacin from your bosses.
...or genuine choking. The Red Bull can is knocked over. In a slightly moderate panic. The liquid pools on the desk. Trying to wipe the keyboard keys causes the tab to reopen. He jumps up, unplugging the headset on the ascent accidentally.
Oh my God.
George, if you have any thoughts, let us know at hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Pulp Kitchen is exposed into the office.
Oh my
The
God.
end of the script. I imagine it being released into the office like a gas of like...
Yeah. I'd imagine like all the people working at your office just immediately go,
2319! 2319! Yeah. Cameron, thank you for articulating that in
you're
a
okay.
cinematic fashion. I hope you're okay.
please, I need part 2. I want part 2 where you're in a bunker.
We're going to be walking down the street one day and there's going to be a man with a beard down to his stomach and bedraggled, matted hair, looking like the person in the alleyway in Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, George, James, it's me. I had a job until Pulp Kitchen.
Where do you work? What formal photo editing job exists? I do not understand.
Also, because most photo editing jobs are creative jobs in an
Creative
environment where people are
agency.
like, we'll have the radio on, we'll have beanbag chairs. What kind of photo editing, military grade photo editing?
I must be Boris naked being gagged, hanging from chains with like what is it? What case are you building?
Wow. Deep faking, maybe. Who knows?
Cameron.
Anyway, I return to Cameron's email now. He says, as a side note, I just wanted to say thank you again for keeping me alive. No, for keeping me company. If anyone ever reads this, no, for keeping me company at work. Your voices are slightly altered when I have you in the background to Premiere Pro. So that's video editing as well. I don't know what that means, but has our pitch changed? I don't know.
Your voices are slightly
altered when I have you in the background to Premiere Pro, but I still manage to coherently understand what's going on.
So it means he's editing at the same time.
Yeah.
And, like he's trying to listen through.
In the off season from my last email, I've tried to rope in more listeners as the months go by. Some probably waiting for me to embarrass myself in this email.
He's like looking left to right. I want you to take this drive. It's like Rogue One.
Yeah, it's the
He's like
Resistance.
giving the drive. Oh, this is episode 72. Just run with it.
The sirens are on our end. The sirens are on our end. The sirens are on our end. The resistance.
The Resistance.
Oh, sorry. Some probably trying to mess. Your recommendations and reviews keep me sane, and I generally think you should somehow create a watch list, homework of shows and movies you'd employ it everyone to watch. Guys, I'm working on the Letterboxd. We said we do a Pulp Kitchen version. Stay tuned. I just need to build it, but we're going to do that. Pulp Kitchen sanctioned
Pulp Kitchen list,
movies. On recommendations, Cameron continues, I've recently hit a conundrum. My mother has been an avid Succession fan since season 1, and it has really put me off watching it.
Oh, no.
I mean no disrespect to my own mum or anyone else's mother when I say this, by the way. My mum does have around a 50% success rate. Wow, that's so kind for her recommendations. But for some reason, even knowing how good of a show it is and hearing you both talk about it, I still cannot bring myself to watch it. I'm wondering if you have ever had a similar reaction to anyone recommending you something that through no disingenuous reason to the recommender, you just can't bring yourself to do it or getting round to it. Also, to finish...
Should we answer the Succession bit first?
You're right. Let's answer that first. I mean, we'll talk about Succession when the series finishes.
Yes, we will cover it.
I think it's fine, though, if, like...
General points.
There's a meme going around at the moment that I saw that is a picture of the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase on the freeway where it's him followed by like 20 police cars.
Yeah.
And each police car has got... One of them says, have you seen Succession? The other one's like, did you catch up with Andor? The other one's like, have you seen The Bear? What did you think of The White Lotus? And it's like, that is what living in today's life is like.
Really is.
If you just haven't got into it, don't worry about it, mate. It's absolutely fine.
But it's fantastic.
Yes, although I'm having deeper thoughts and I'm having I think
we should say
there's things you and I need to talk about this show, James.
Yeah,
and we will do when the show concludes.
We and George have like sort of semi-unpacked little episodes off air.
Yeah, but I'm having slightly more complex feelings.
I've seen 4 episodes as of recording, and you've seen 6.
Yes,
fine.
Also, to finish, what happened to the American guy who was showing films to his friend who'd never seen these films before? Right, look, so that was Trevor from LA. Now, Trevor, you wrote in about a year ago. You may not even listen to this show anymore, which is okay, but you are one of our early listeners. Trevor from LA, if you are listening to this right now, and you had a friend who had the friend who had never seen a film before and was going... We'd love a report back. 1 year in.
What? Yeah, it'd be a year, over a year old now.
How's he doing?
What other films has he watched? What are his impressions of those films? How is his relationship to cinema in general?
And to media and to culture. Like, we'd love to know if you want to make it to be our LA correspondent.
And if you want to send us a list of like 3 or 4 films, and we can decide what would be a good next watch, we would love to break that down.
He could give you 10 films he's watched and a 1-sentence review of each one. Like, we're just so curious. We're fascinated. So Trevor in LA, if you are still listening, we hope you are. Please, you're our only hope. Anyway, what happens to the guy that I need an answers, I need a top 10, yes. And Cameron lastly says, what were your guys' thoughts on The Last of Us finale in regards to the in the scene? I honestly was left disappointed by it. It was one of the few scenes I remembered from the playthrough of the game, and it was probably one of the most anticipated, the ones I was anticipated seeing live action. I urged my girlfriend to not to watch TikToks about it because they wanted to ruin it, but just in case it was spoiled for her. That was a heart-wrenching scene in the series, but I was expecting to be emotionally punched in the stomach, but I was left a bit underwhelmed. On that, I see what you mean, Cameron, in that I think the scene is better in the games. What I was surprised the way they shot that in the Last of Us finale. I know the show finished like 2 months ago, but it's that they shot that sequence. They pulled back. They dulled the audio, didn't they? They played music and made it a montage. I agree. I think it would have been a lot more brutal and sparse if they shot it, like I mentioned, Elephant earlier, like a high school shooting, which is like stark, clear, no music, like making it really, really uncomfortable. But I understand the logic of like, we're going to pare back and we're going to show Joel doing this thing. But it's like, maybe that wasn't the right way to do it. Lastly, he says, I also love Scream 6 and I'm never forgiving Warner Brothers for making Harry Potter. I like your way in the way that people used to write letters in the olden days, you've carried a lot of correspondence in your note there. Thanks and kind regards. Maybe a spy, maybe not a spy. Cameron.
Good luck at that. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. On that Last of Us note, as I went through, there were a few scenes which I felt like didn't quite hit the same level of the games. One of which being the Henry and Sam interaction, which in the game is the way it's edited and the way the music cuts when Henry does that thing after that thing happens, didn't hit the same way in the TV show. The genius of that end moment in The Last of Us is that you, as a player, you have to do it. And that's what makes it a really, really difficult scene, regardless of whether or not you want to do it. You cannot finish it without doing that. In part 2, which more and more, I know I'm not going to go into it. In part 2, which as I'm now thinking more about the show, I'm so much more interested in them trying to tackle that beast than part 1. Part 1 is a much cleaner, linear story than part 2. That scene in part 2 echoes as a terrible bad omen and is referred to many times in part 2 from different perspectives and in dream sequences, and it haunts, like the imagery that I didn't know was so burnt into my retinas is they are aware of that so much in part 2, and I think it's interesting the stylistic choice they made in the TV show in part 1 to change that up and how that's going to affect part 2. I'm weirdly more interested in part 2 and how they're going to do it, and how they're going to long it out. But yeah, an interesting series that I think some moments didn't quite hit.
Cameron, thank you very much for your email there. That concludes our emails for today. A very interesting, exciting one.
Cameron.
As ever, you can write emails into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Emails, short or long, it's okay.
Yep, just make them good.
Just make them good. And if you are going to be long, try and be concise. I feel like, Cameron, you were concise. You were to a point. But And if there is a delay in getting around to them, we do get a lot. We do try and get through them, but they are always ever appreciated. They always put a smile on our face.
Oh yeah, I love the emails so much. And tell us where you are.
Yes, tell us where you are and where you're listening from, where you have listened to us.
And and what you're doing when you listen. I'm always enjoying
James,
those.
it's quite personal. Do we want to do that? Do we want to? Staring at you from outside.
Yeah, I listen to podcasts where they always assume that people listening are truck drivers. Like, guys, truck drivers, pull over. Like, not everyone's a truck driver.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Send those emails in. George, we have gotten to the end of episode 76. It's time to unwind. It's time to just sort of like crick the neck a bit, stretch out. The captain's just said, excuse me, we're going to be landing in London Heathrow in about approximately 35 minutes. We turn the seatbelt seat on if you would like blah, blah, blah. The cabin's like, you need to pick the seat up.
The lights.
So that has to go away. The window up.
Sir.
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 I'm going to need you to put that away.
You are screaming. So just pop in your old little earphones. Prepare. Dun, dun, for the games. George, I have 2 miscellaneous games for you today. Just 2. If you didn't know, we do these miscellaneous things.
Yeah, if you're new to the show.
I will throw a list of things that George has to get within a certain amount of time. I'm going to get my time out.
Sure.
Please feel free to playing along at home. Someone once told me that it's fun to listen to the games, not because they can play along, because sometimes it's too fast, but it has the same appeal of watching something like The Weakest Link.
Yes.
You know how that's quite quick fire, and sometimes you get them before them, but actually it's just quite fun to see someone else try and get them. What am I doing? Get my clock out. Bear with, guys. How many seconds am I giving to this one? I'm going to give you 30 seconds for this one. Okay, George, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You have 30 seconds. Name 10 films with a Hans Zimmer score. 3, 2, 1, go.
Gladiator, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Pirates of the Caribbean?
Not sure,
Not
maybe.
sure.
I think so.
Hans Zimmer. True Romance. Hans Zimmer. Come on.
5 seconds.
Blade Runner 2049? No. Dune? No.
Yes.
Dune?
Dune.
Time.
Time.
God. They just vanished.
Inception. Lion King.
God.
Last Samurai.
Lion King, that was John Williams, wasn't it?
No, Hans Zimmer.
God.
Famously Hans Zimmer.
Last Samurai. Oh, God.
And loads more.
Oh, sorry.
All right, George, are you ready for your next one? I'm going to give you... No, I'm still going to give you 30 seconds for this.
Okay.
All right? Are you ready? In 30 seconds, name 15 James Bond films. Your time starts now.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Dr. No, GoldenEye, The Man with the Golden Gun, Goldfinger, You Only Live Twice, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, Skyfall, No Time to Die, Die Another Day, The Quantum of Solace, Spectre, Living Daylights, and License to Kill. Jesus,
you did well.
Christ, is that 15?
That was 15. Oh. So I thought...
I'm so stressed.
So I was like, 15 is quite a lot. That's 1 every 2 seconds to do it in time. And I was like, there are big films. And you could go through like the 5 Craigs and a bunch of Brosnan. So I had to sort of push you there, but you just made it with 2 seconds to spare. Well done.
Wow.
Well done. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. That's all the games we have for you today. Don't forget, we post new episodes of the show every single Wednesday.
And of course, as we say, guys, you can follow us, and I hope you are following us on Instagram and TikTok. And that's the best way to keep up with not only clips in the show and additional content, but also to keep up to speed with lots of things we're doing outside of the show, events we go to, things we're doing, really exciting news coming down. And just help spread the word, like, subscribe, send a link to people. We really appreciate it. Share it in your story. It's all great. We really, really, really value it. And that would be nice.
Thank you so much for staying this long. We love you guys.
Thanks so much. See you next week.
See you next week.